Well, Iran has denied claims that they mistakenly shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet and accused the U.S. of spreading lies suggesting that they did. This video obtained by the New York Times appears to show the impact. You can actually see a bright flash, which CBS News sources say was the explosion of two surface-to-air missiles. U.S. officials say the strike was likely a mistake. Surveillance cameras show a shower of debris from the aircraft that crashed after takeoff from Tehran's main airport, killing all 176 people on board. Well, the crash happened just hours after Iran's missile attacks on U.S. troops in Iraq. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer is in Tehran with more.
Videos shot by witnesses appear to show the plane flying along on fire, then an explosion. A little over 48 hours later,
we've arrived at what the local people say is the crash site. There are no guards here. Nobody tried to stop us coming in. In fact, there are people all over, some looking for things of value to take away, some just reflecting on what's happened. There isn't much of the plane left. Local people say that trucks, cranes showed up and took most of the pieces that were here away. Clearly, this is an impact crater behind me, another one over there, but they're empty. At the moment, it doesn't appear that the Ukrainian investigators have come to the site, and whatever evidence was here is just not here anymore.
There should be a wealth of evidence in the black boxes, which Iran is looking at today and has promised to share with the Ukrainians. The boxes may contain some answers for the grieving families of those who died, 63 of them Canadian. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
The families of the victims and all Canadians want answers. I want answers.
Omidar Salani lost his sister and her family in the crash.
Every moment, say I'm going to wake up and it's a nightmare and it's over and she's home. And I'm going to knock on her door. She can't open.
CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge joins me now from Washington. Catherine, we know U.S. officials are confident this was Iranian missiles that took down the plane. Well, how do they make that assessment?
Well, Rena, there are two primary intelligence streams that go into these assessments. The first is radar data that typically comes from the NSA, that's the National Security Agency, and the second is overhead imagery, and that comes from the NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. The U.S. has very powerful technology, but it's not always trained on the area of concern at the exact time it needs to be, because you can't have 100% coverage. So think of this like a giant jigsaw puzzle. Analysts take the data that's available, some stronger than others, and it's like putting it on a table and putting together the pieces. And when they have high concentrations of data, they have a high degree of certainty, and then they have gaps in this map or this jigsaw puzzle that they're looking at. And my contacts say for the U.S. officials to describe it as confident or highly confident, that goes to about 95% certainty based on the data.
Wow, that's pretty significant, 95%. I want to also ask you about the administration's claim that Qassem Soleimani was plotting attacks against American embassies. Those lawmakers who attended the administration's briefing said that actually never came up. But earlier today, Pompeo actually assured reporters that he did tell lawmakers. I want to play for you that exchange.
You said that the imminent threat was a threat to U.S. embassies. You didn't know precisely when or where. Last night, the president said it was a threat to embassies, including to our Baghdad embassy. Why can you say that here, and the president could say it at a rally in Toledo, but no one said it to lawmakers behind closed doors in a classified setting, as multiple senators have since said?
We did.
You said so. The senators are lying when they say that
we told them about the imminent threat. All of the intelligence that we've briefed, that you've heard today, I assure you, in an unclassified setting, we provide in the classified setting as well.
To be clear, you told them that embassies were to be targeted. That was the imminent threat.
I'm not going to talk about the details of what we shared in the classified setting, but make no mistake about it. Those leaders, those members of Congress who want to go access this same intelligence can see that very same intelligence that will reflect what I described to you and what the president said last night.
Catherine, who's telling the truth here? What do we know about the intelligence? What does it say? What's being communicated?
Well, I think if I was going to simplify it, Rena, I would say this may be a case of classic Washington wordsmithing. The Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, is saying that when we were behind closed doors with those lawmakers, the briefers were there, we told them that this was a plot, the architect was General Soleimani, and that it was imminent and that it was active and that it was targeting U.S. regional interests. What the lawmakers are complaining about is that the language was not more specific than that. That's my read, that they didn't get into that granularity of U.S. embassies. And in the last few minutes, Democratic Senator Robert Menendez has said in a statement in response from what we heard Mike Pompeo say at the podium that he thinks this is the molding of intelligence to fit a strategic objective. So this may come down to the wordsmithing, but what caught my attention is when the Secretary of State said the lawmakers who want to take that extra step and look at more depth into that classified information, they'll see that we're really all on the same page. And if I could, just as a final point, what came up at the podium today, too, is I think maybe a 20,000-foot level that we haven't been discussing in general, and that's the number of high-value targets that have been taken out since 2017, and it hits all the three top-tier terrorist groups: Al-Qaeda with Hamza bin Laden, the son of Osama bin Laden, who was the very charismatic heir apparent, then Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, and now General Soleimani, who was really the go-to guy making the decisions on Hezbollah, and that's not something really, I think, to be minimized.
You're absolutely right. It is not something to be minimized. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Does the intelligence suggest that the strike against Soleimani reduced the risk, though? Can we ascertain that for a fact?
I'm glad you asked that question because that came up at the podium as well, and Secretary of State Pompeo said that it did not sort of nullify or get rid of the risk. There was always going to be a threat from these terrorist groups, and that to me said he was leaving the door open to actions in the future. So it didn't neutralize the threat from groups like Hezbollah, like the militias, but it did a lot to reduce the threat picture in the region.
Catherine Herridge coming to us from Washington. Catherine, thank you very much.